Greetings, my fellow Earthlings. I hope you're all well and happy in this pandemic. As you can see, my COVID-19 haircut continues to get longer and longer. Let me be clear on this. I don't approve of smoking, but as a flight instructor, I approve of carrying survival equipment. I approve of lighting candles on birthday cakes, and I approve of making campfires to roast s'mores. For the purpose of this YouTube video, we can pretend that the Zippo lighter was designed and built as a survival tool, a tool to light birthday candles, and also to make campfires for s'mores and ghost stories, as opposed to the other application. Consider that it took about 250,000 years perhaps for humans to create something like this. A simple, reusable, inexpensive tool that could be repeatedly used to create fire over and over again. I mean, something that would have been of great use to Alexander the Great or to George Washington. And also consider that within 50 years of its development, humans were walking on the moon. So in other words, in about 50 years between developing a reusable, cheap, handy fire-making tool, we were on the moon. Pretty incredible about that. So, anyway, on with the story. Some years ago, I was at an astronomy public event at the USS Hornet, an aircraft carrier in Alameda, the former Alameda Naval Air Station. It's only a short drive away from San Anselmo, about 40 minutes in a car or so. And the Hornet was the recovery ship for both Apollos 10 and, Apollo 11 and Apollo 12. So as a boy, I remember watching live TV, the recovery of the first astronauts from the moon, Neil Armstrong getting off the helicopter and walking to the mobile quarantine unit, the president there to greet them, and it was all an amazing event. A lot of good memories of that. And being able to have my telescope set up on the deck of the Hornet, showing the sun from it, was a really neat experience. After a while, I took a break. I went down to the gift shop to buy a t-shirt or something to remember the occasion. And what I actually ended up buying was this. Have a look at that. That is a Zippo lighter created for the USS Hornet, and it says recovery ship for Apollo 11 and Apollo 12. And kind of a neat thing, because the Hornet, as you can imagine, is open to the public. You can go down into the engine room. In the engine room, they'll show you where they lit the boilers, these big torchlight devices. And I understand the torchlight device was lit by a Zippo lighter. So they used a Zippo lighter to basically light the boilers and get the aircraft carrier moving. Pretty cool. In any case, this ended up as the first of a collection of space-related Zippo lighters, and some Zippo lighters which weren't actually space-related either. Let's have a look at a few. If we were thinking of the Titanic, what do they call it? RMS Titanic, Royal Mail Service White Star Line Titanic, probably a more famous ship than the Hornet, because everyone's heard of the Titanic. However, I think that of any ship still afloat, the Hornet has to be the most significant one, just as far as history is concerned. I mean, imagine, it was the recovery ship for the first 2 lunar landings. That in itself is pretty cool. And I've got another lighter for the dedication of a ship named Alan Shepard. Alan Shepard was the first American ever to fly in space. And it was just a simple little lob down the Florida coast of about 115 miles, I think, but technically he entered in space. It was just a ballistic thing up and down within 15 minutes. But later on Apollo 14, Alan Shepard actually walked on the moon. So that's a crazy thought, isn't it? That the first American in space was also able to walk on the moon on Apollo 14. Oh, and here's a bit of trivia for you. Alan Shepard shares a birthday with another great American. He shares the same birthday as Mickey Mouse, November 18th. And that just happens to be my birthday as well. So Alan Shepard, Mickey Mouse, and myself, we all share the same birthday. Pretty cool, huh? The recovery ship used for John Glenn. John Glenn was the first astronaut to actually, or the first American astronaut to orbit the Earth. He did a 3-orbital flight. The first man to orbit the Earth and the first man in space, of course, was the Soviet, Yuri Gagarin. But John Glenn did a 3-orbit flight, and it was a huge, huge thing. And after that, John F. Kennedy said, okay, I don't want this guy flying in space again because I'm afraid of the terrible, terrible publicity and the terrible heartbreak if actually some accident befell him. So John Glenn didn't fly again until 1999, and that was on the space shuttle mission STS-95. And I'm just realizing now I don't have an STS-95 Zippo. Maybe I should look for one. But that was an amazing thing, having John Glenn go back into space. And actually, this is really cool. I was there for the launch of that mission because the #1 mission specialist, Steve Robinson, was a member of my same flying club in Palo Alto, California, and he invited me to attend the launch as an astronaut invited guest, which was real cool. And it was also kind of amazing to think that Steve Robinson, technically speaking, for the purpose of that mission, was John Glenn's boss. So, wow, I got invited to the launch by John Glenn's boss. How cool is that? Let's see, here's a ship named in honor of Wally Schirra. Wally Schirra was a Mercury astronaut, but he was the only astronaut to fly all 3 series, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. On Gemini, he was able to smuggle the little Honecker harmonica on board and play Jingle Bells for orbit, which was very cool. And Apollo, he flew Apollo 7, which was the first manned mission of the Apollo, and it came right after the Apollo 1 fire, so it was kind of a gutsy thing to fly a spacecraft that had already killed 3 of his friends on the ground. This is simply a commemorative to the first lunar landing. Well, it's a commemorative of a commemorative stamp to the first lunar landing. This Zippo is kind of cool in that it's textured like the surface of the moon. And then it has the date, July 20th, 1969, the date of the first moon landing and the first steps on the moon. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. This is another commemorative stamp to the first lunar landing. This is for the first space shuttle, the first crew on the International Space Station. So that's kind of a neat Zippo right there. This is STS-107. This was very, very tragically the Columbia disaster, where the astronauts died on the Columbia. And Kalpana Chawla, one of the astronauts on board there, also a member of the same flying club in Palo Alto. And so I didn't know her real well because she had left right about the same time that I came there. But yeah, she had a local connection to the area. And it was the loss of the Columbia and all 7 crew member on board. It was just, it was devastating. It was an absolutely devastating thing. This was actually a Zippo made as a memorial to the lost crew. And it just says, "Some gave all." And I thought that was very, very poignant in that it's not overly emotional or it's not overly wordy, but anyone who knows the history and can check the date on the base of the Zippo right there to find out when it was made understands immediately what they're referring to. This space shuttle mission was returned to flight after the loss of the Columbia. Remarkably enough, Steve Robinson was also on that flight. And so he was really nice because I was able to get invited to that as well. I think what happens with NASA is once an astronaut puts you on his guest list, they have your address and your email address, which they get in touch with you through the email. And I think they just sort of an automatic thing that they invite you to all of the following ones. And seeing a launch in person like that is really, really terrific. Here is... it looks like a security pass to get into Area 51, supposedly where they keep the bodies of the space aliens and the crashed aircraft, or the crashed flying saucers. And it looks like this is a security pass for a space alien who perhaps is trying to pass himself off as a human by putting along a little fake mustache. And if you look really closely at the fingerprint, it says "Death to Humans" or something like that. Let's see. Here is another mission patch from an expedition to the International Space Station. I don't even know really quite why I've got this one right here, but well, it just looks kind of pretty, and who knows? You never do know when you've got some birthday cake which has candles on it that you need to light, or when you've got a campfire you need to light. Okay, this Golden Gate Bridge, since San Anselmo is so close to the Golden Gate Bridge, I figured I'd just show you this one, although it doesn't really have a lot to do with spaceflight. Over here, this is kind of strange. When I was a kid, the only nuclear-powered aircraft carrier was the Enterprise. So the Enterprise was like, wow. I mean, it was the latest and that it was the greatest. And it was something really special, a nuclear-powered ship. And this is odd because this is a Zippo which is dedicated not to its commissioning when they put the ship on the official roster and it's part of the Navy, but it was to commemorate the decommissioning ceremony before they started to dismantle it. I think it was in service for about 50 years or so. So this is the decommissioning ceremony of the aircraft carrier Enterprise. But, look at this. This is to commemorate the other Enterprise, the Starship Enterprise. So I think that's kind of a cool Zippo as well. Now, back during the Vietnam War, Korea, World War II, the soldiers would sometimes do a process called acid etching, where basically what they would do is the works of the Zippo would be removed. That's rather stiff there. They take the body, coat it with a thin coating of wax, scratch some design in it, and then dip it in acid to etch out some sayings. So this is from Vietnam, 1967, 68. That looks like, well, whatever. We see Snoopy saying that he's ready to go home. Peanuts was very, very popular then. And on the back, we see him on his doghouse, and it says, "We are the unwilling, led by the unqualified, doing the unnecessary for the ungrateful." So if there happens to be any Vietnam vets watching this video, let me just take this occasion right now to say thank you for your service, and regardless of what the Zippo says, I am quite grateful. Take care now.